I think it's hard for the average pitcher to start to dig in to the biomechanics and start to understand really how the muscles and those motions really occur, right? And because that's often debated.
Right.
And obviously at DVS Baseball, that's been our passion to deliver some objectivity based off those movements that you're currently doing.
Right.
What happens long term to you? Well, we can deliver that information now.
Right.
You know, and also with this movements, we talk, and you said it, and I was talking about it, is sequencing. And, you know, sometimes the fastest route or most sustainable route to long-term performance or even short-term performance is just to have a better sequence.
Oh, amen.
But I don't know if I want to touch that one because, hey, Johnny, come over here. We want you to understand this movement, but it's going to require you to think about it, test out this movement, feel it differently, and you may throw the ball, an errant throw, a little bit.
Sure.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You know, but that's a conversation, that's a communication route that you start to have with that pitcher.
Right.
But it's harder to do.
Right.
You know, and not a lot of, you know, performance specialists or coaches really want to have that conversation. But if the pitcher would just understand, look, your job is to be a pitcher. That's your skill set. Throw a strike. Okay, that's your job description. But sometimes just understanding what goes into the skill of delivering a baseball can be your fastest route to performance.
Yep.
But it's often one that's most misunderstood. So, question I have for you is, you know, one thing we've seen from the DVS scale, the higher my DVS score, my higher level of sequence, I'm able to throw more innings without undergoing an injury.
Right.
So in my body, as I'm moving in these movement patterns, let's say I have this better chain reaction, these biomechanics, I'm sequencing up better. You know, how is that actually helping me to stay healthy?
Yeah. A beautifully loaded question. Bad news is I could go forever on this, but I'm just going to pick out the highlights. As I told you when we first met, and I saw your DVS scale, how you assess the pitcher, I hopefully gave you the biggest compliment I could give you because you emphasize sequencing. You don't emphasize just range of motion. You don't emphasize this. You emphasize when certain things happen. And we know neurologically that's the game. We know that's the game. When we see somebody that really just can throw and we know that person's going to throw for a long time and they're going to just gradually get better and more effective and efficient and their longevity of their career is great, we just see this thing that's beautiful sequencing. We can also see somebody just kind of be big and strong and just raw and just trying to, you know, overcome everything, and we go, boy, if you keep that up, you're not going to get anywhere. It might be impressive now. You might have snot coming out of your nose and snarling, but, you know, it's not going to get it. You said something even more important prior to that. The athletes shouldn't be responsible for figuring out the biomechanics of the sequencing. That's our job, okay? And that's why DVS is so significant to the pitcher, is that we'll help you with that. However, you also have to be willing to train in a way that subconsciously gives you the right sequencing. And for a while, it might, from a skill level, not look exactly what you want. But your foundation is going to get bigger. So sometimes you got to come off the mountaintop, go down in the valley, and work hard. Okay. And when you're in the valley, you don't see what you see from the mountaintop. It's not as a pretty view. But that's where gains are made, where somebody can say, "Wow, okay, we can enhance the sequencing." And getting your pelvis to release a little sooner to get the sequencing towards the plate better. But here are the 4 drills that I want you to do so it happens subconsciously. But in the meantime, know that you're going to be in the valley for a little bit.
That's right.
But the thing I find with athletes is if I'm in the valley and you can explain to me why I'm in the valley, I don't mind. But if you somehow take me to the valley and you're not explaining to me that now I get to go to a higher mountaintop, that's when I struggle and I get confused. And so the athlete shouldn't be responsible for doing what we've done, and that's studied this sequencing for 45 years. We should then make it simple for them that you've done at DVS to say, we have this assessment tool where, wow, we can let you know exactly what your sequencing is. We have tools to train you in order to get your sequencing better. And more importantly, we have a recovery program that's going to, even while you think you're just resting and you're taking it easy, it's going to enhance neurologically the sequencing. You can just see that we've seen it our whole life, just that athlete that looks like they're barely even trying and all of a sudden, I mean, you don't have to watch the LPGA long to realize that I think I could beat her up, but she's out driving me by 80 yards.
That's
okay,
right.
so how does that happen?
Right.
It's sequencing.
That's
It's
right.
100% sequencing.